I'll have to forgive if you can hear my fan. But I did something relatively small. Um, and I can't find my microphone. Anyway, I did something relatively small with a couple different moving parts. Let's get rid of that. Just to show off. Let's put these in order as to what I want to talk about. That doesn't really matter. Um, the dialogue. Very no, get back in place. Thank you. Okay. So, um, what's most important is these three guys are all separate types. These three guys are all separate NPCs. This first one will kind of lead you to this one, which is the weaponsmith. This one you get to pick a weapon from. And then this one, when you have picked a weapon and you say yes and you're ready to go fight, then he'll open this doorway for you. And then in this area from here to here, then you get to fight 5 enemies. Pretty simplistic stuff, but it was pretty much just to show and use Unity integrated with Ink. All of them have this trigger game object, which uses this script and pretty much just has their own specific Ink file using the JSON file attached to Ink that it compiles with, and also the visual cue that we'll see when I run it. And it's basically just using a collider saying if they're in range, turn it on, and then if they are in range, and we use the interact button, which is E, then we can, start the dialogue. Then we can say enter dialogue mode with the dialogue manager, which is this script. Now this is pretty much the heavy lifter when it comes to the, let me see if I can pull this down a bit. And so I'm going to kind of drag it up and then drag it down real slow, because as I said, this is the heavy lifter. We got a whole bunch of open fields, if you will, open variables. And so on start, we're going to set some stuff, including a brand new, is it in this one? Sorry, I've been working on a couple different things. So we should be, no, it's in awake that we do it, right. So in awake, we're going to set a new dialogues variable, I guess. And then what this is going to do is this is going to help us deal with any global variables within the Ink files themselves. And I'll show that in just a second when we get to the Ink files. In start is where we're going to set up everything else and kind of do some preemptive work. And update, all we're going to do is basically just say if it's not playing, we're going to return it straight away. If it is, and we have no choices, then we're just going to go straight to the next line. This is the function for enter dialogue mode, which will do if we're in range to an NPC and if we press the interact button. This is to exit, pretty much if we're at the end of the dialogue tree and we press E. Dialogue tree, dialogue story, whatever you want to call it. So this is continue story, so this is what we're going to call at the end of dialogue and at the enter, so pretty much continue story as soon as we enter it, and then entering dialogue mode as well. So that kind of loops it all together. So we're stopping all coroutines automatically and then starting it, just so there's no funny business. And this handle tags, so I'm going to show why this is important. Basically, we're going to handle tags to handle if there's a portrait or a speaker and where that portrait and speaker is going to be placed. We do that within the Ink, and that also helps us lay up lay out the names. Display line. This helps with, it doesn't work every single time, and given some more time I would kind of hash this out and you'll see where it does work and where it doesn't work. But for most of it, this helps give us the kind of typing effect, which is really cool. This handle tags, this is what I was saying, where as you see like the speaker tag, that gives us the name of the speaker. Layout tag is whether it's left or to the right. Display choices handles what if there are any choices, what we can and cannot do, and going add them to the choice index, if you will, or the choice array. And then hide choices at the end if there are any. Then set first choice. What this does is, so since we're not using the mouse, to make sure we can move through the choices with W and S. We could have done the arrows, but I just went with W and S to simplify it. We have to select one of them first so that it's highlighted, and then we can move through them, or else we wouldn't be able to actually have anything happen. To say it very simple, we would just be like, okay, here are the choices, but nothing would happen. We have to tell it, okay, highlight and select one first, so that then if we press S, then that one's selected, and then that one's highlighted, and so on and so forth. And make choice, basically, if we press register submit pressed, then continue story, and we go with that choice index. And then get variable state name. Basically, we're just going to get the value of this variable of the dialog variables. And while we're here, I'll show you the dialog variables. This one is pretty straightforward. In the initialization, we're just going to get any and all variables from the ink, and we're going to shove them into a dictionary. We're going to debug.log them to make sure they're there. And then for each, just step through, like I said, and add them into a new variable that we create. Make sure they're initialized, and then say to start listening and stop listening for when they're being changed and when the story is opening. And then when it's changed, we're going to remove it and then add it with the exact same name. And then the variables to story, we're going to set it globally. So there's also a level which we deal with at the end, whether we want to try again or quit. Player health, which is pretty simple, just dealing with the player health. Door manager, which just handles the door. There's a trigger a little bit farther, which closes the door. So a basic enemy script, a really simple AI. It was 2D, so I didn't want to do any ASAR or any kind of nav mesh stuff. It's just, chases him. Enemy spawner, which, if there's not one on the field and it's less than 5, then spawn it. Pretty simple stuff. A weapon spawn. And this is where we get the string weapon choice, and then if the variable state is equal to the value, we're going to send it through a switch and then spawn the specific weapon that we're saying. If it's a sword, we're going to spawn the sword. If it's the bow, we're going to spawn the bow. And then we're going to, it's a basic melee attack, so it worked. It's a little bit slower with the axe, a little bit faster with the sword, and then we're not going to obviously have any animations for the bow. We're just going to spawn an arrow. So, speaking on the ink files, though, that's not the folder. This is the folder. So I'll open up the globals. This is, if it'll open. There we go. So this is from the beginning. And ignore the Pokemon name. So that was when I was still figuring out how it works. So the weapon choice, ready, and seen is what we're really focusing on. And these are our global variables. The introduction is the first one we're going to see and deal with. We'll see Speaker Artemis, Portrait, Dr. Green Happy, Layout Left. And this is, if weapon choice is 0, we're going to have the intro if we're armed. And then we're going to see, we've chosen, find weapon. We're going to see a weapon choice. This is a little bit more complicated, where if we need to choose a weapon, we go to that. If weapon's picked, we go to this. If we've already seen him, and then, excuse me, this is the one that's more complicated. This is, I believe, this one is the most complicated. Not that any of them are terribly complicated, mind you, but if we need a weapon, then, if weapon choice is empty, we need a weapon, so we'll say we got go see Weaponsmith Daedra. If we're armed, then if seen is equal to true, we'll go straight to this. If not, then we'll go, I see you've picked weapon choice, this. So if we haven't seen him yet, we'll get this whole bit. If we have, he'll go straight to the mission statement and say, well, we'll pick one, yes or no. And then yes, excellent, get going. And then essentially is saying if no, we'll skip all this and we'll go straight to the mission statement and then go through. So all of that ends up looking something like this. And so to kind of show you, what I'll do first is I'll skip both of these and I'll go straight to him. And this is the typing effect that I was showing you. And we'll go here. It says go see the armor and get started. So we'll go here. Need a weapon. Let's go with the bow. Cool beans. We chose the bow. Let's go back to here. When he says we'll change, I see you've chosen the bow. Find weapon. Go find Julius for your first mission. Wonderful. We'll go back here, see what they say. You already have a weapon. Go see Julius for your mission. Wonderful. Say yes. That door disappears. Go back. Door appears again. Cool. And go back here, try again, quit. Excellent. So that's about it.